Welcome to Hypnotic Authenticity. This is a place to reflect, a place to unwind perhaps, to understand yourself a little better, and to gently reshape the patterns that guide your life. A little bit like a conversation between you and your deeper self. So I'm offering a sprinkling of hypnosis, insight, some meditative guidance, and it's all going to be woven throughout a deep sense of practicality, so that if I do my job well, each episode is going to help you feel more grounded, also more open, and more authentically you. So if you're ready, let's begin.
Hello everybody. I'm going to talk a bit about stress today, stress management. Okay, this is something that comes up, well, most days with clients in actual fact. So I think it's something that's useful to tackle. Maybe I'll give you a couple of ways to reframe the way that you look at stress, and I'll also give you 2 or 3 techniques that you can use as a sort of an immediate fix for stress, and then something a little bit longer term. So let's start off with maybe ways to reframe stress. Because stress is kind of inevitable. It's part of life, because stress is actually neither good nor bad. There is eustress, there is positive stress, useful stress. Stress that gives you motivation, drive to go in a direction that actually you want to go in, right? You might consider anticipation, excitement, adrenaline as positive forms of stress. The reason that they're positive is because you think of the outcomes as good for you. Negative stress, the one that we kind of think about all the time, well, the reason that we're thinking about that is because we're thinking about consequences, we're thinking about catastrophes, and therefore deciding that the stress is bad for us. But if you actually go inside yourself and you analyze the feeling, you notice the feeling, you notice where the feeling is, and you describe to yourself what the feeling is, well, actually it's very hard to distinguish between positive adrenaline, excitement, anticipation versus negative fear, consequence-based stress. They both feel very similar. They're made of the same stuff. The difference is not the stress. The difference is your expectation. It's the label that you place upon the feeling. If you conjure with that, that can be quite playful. So you might just want to ruminate on that. But let's get on to techniques that you might be able to use when you are stressed in a negative way, let's say. Now, as a preface though, first of all, if this has reached the point of debilitating stress, if you're feeling frankly kind of paralyzed, you're feeling utterly worn out, then these techniques are not going to be sufficient. When you're at that point, when you're on the verge of burnout, when you're feeling as though you need rest, number one that you must address is your physiology. So make sure that you're sleeping well, that you're resting well, that you're exercising, that you are feeding, eating well. Once you've got that basic biological component correct, make sure that you are socializing, that you're getting out and talking to other people, because they can give you new perspectives on something that you think you know you're stressed about. So all of that is far more important in actual fact than these techniques that I'm talking about, if your stress is at that level. But if you've kind of tackled it a little bit, and this is something that you simply need to beat, and you've gone through the kind of thought process, and it's like, okay, well, look, it doesn't really matter to me whether this is a natural part of life or not. I don't care right now. This is stopping me getting done what I need to get done. Then you might want to play with 1 or 2 or 3 of these silly little techniques. And if you consider them to be just silly little techniques, games, but with remarkable power, who knows how far you might get. So number 1 is, I don't know what it is that you're stressed about, but if you can visualize the thing that you're stressed about, if you can extrapolate from the stress, the consequences, the things that you're truly, truly afraid of, put that almost like you're putting it in a video image, like in a film, and play the film. Be very honest with yourself about playing the film. And then there's almost an unlimited amount of ways that you can juggle with that. So for a start off, as a simple example, you might want to place it inside a TV screen. So you can imagine in your mind watching that catastrophe playing out on a TV screen. Now, having done that, you can then place that TV screen out in front of you as if it's a real thing, as if it's a real object, and you can see your film playing on it. And then there's an unlimited number of ways that you can do it. You can turn the color off. You can turn it into a black and white film. You could shrink the screen down. You should kind of manhandle the corners of the screen, get to the point where you can actually push the screen in and make it smaller and smaller, smaller and smaller, grab it by the diagonals until it's the size of a postage stamp. You could then flick it away and watch it fly over the horizon. See how that feels. You could turn the contrast completely up or completely down so that the image which is playing is kind of obliterated. It turns entirely white or entirely black. You could make the entire film turn into a cartoon movie with cartoon characters, with cartoon shoes, cartoon hats, cartoon expressions. Watch the entire thing run all the way through. Zip it right back to the beginning, play it a second time as a cartoon, give it a funky soundtrack, give it something really, really jolly as a soundtrack. All of those, what they're doing is they're giving you a sort of a refreshed perspective on what you thought was a problem. If you can make yourself giggle about the problem, boy, is it a whole lot less stressful. So that's one way, if you can consider that all to be one. So you put it on a film, you put it in a TV screen or on a slideshow or in the cinema, and then you play with it as you want. You can shrink it down, you can take the color away, you could take the volume away, you could turn it into a cartoon, you can shrink it to the point where you flick it beyond the horizon, whatever feels great. So that's one way that you could do it. What about another way that you could do it? So you notice the feeling of stress inside of you. You can feel it. Maybe your heart is pounding. Maybe your stomach feels hollow. I don't know, right? But whatever it is that you notice as you're feeling the, uh-oh, this is my stress coming. Notice where you notice that in your body. Notice where in particular you notice that in your body. And then ask it. And maybe it feels a bit awkward to ask it. If it does, maybe put it out in front of you. Notice if it has a shape, a color, a movement, anything at all, a voice, a name, anything like that. But notice what you notice and have a conversation with that if that's easier. But the point is to then play with the metaphor of the feeling that you have just objectified. Because once you've objectified it, especially if you can put it out in front of you, well, then it no longer feels like all of you, it feels like a little element of you. So you've put it out in front of you, maybe it's got a color, okay? If it's got a color, I don't know, let's say for argument's sake that it's bright red, that it's pulsing, or it's dark black and argumentative and fearful, right? Who knows, whatever it is. Ask it, no matter how silly it might feel, ask it what color it would need to feel better. Doesn't matter what the answer is. Right? There's no right answers and wrong answers. Just ask it. And when you get the answer, bathe it in that color. Imagine that color being conjured up in your mind, bathing the whole of this feeling in that color. Put it back in your body and notice what you notice. Right? That can work. Or maybe when you put it out in front of you, you can notice it's got a particular shape or a particular movement. If this wanted to be fixed, what movement would it require instead? So maybe if it's moving counterclockwise, you want to make it turn clockwise. Or if it's going somersaults round and round, you want to turn the somersaults the other way. Do that faster and faster, faster and faster until it's got its own momentum. Do the same thing, put it back in your body wherever it was and notice what you notice. And basically notice that you can't bring back that feeling in the same way. It's had a remarkable shift inside of you because you've completely transformed the metaphor. If it's spiky, maybe it wants some moisturizing cream or a nail file, right? Whatever is the metaphor which feels right to you, ask it what it needs. Give it that with the power of your imagination and then bring it back inside of you. So these are all silly little techniques, but if you can get to the point of playing with it in a kind-hearted, generous manner, can have huge, quick acting results. But then the question is, okay, so now you know that you haven't fixed the problem, you've transformed the way you look at it, so it's less fearful than it was, but there's still something behind which was causing the stress. So then what's going on is typically when you have the problem and it's triggering the stress, you're going into fight, flight, freeze mode. You're going into panic mode. Playing with these techniques takes you out of panic mode. It's activating the parasympathetic nervous system, even if just with laughter and amusement, right? You're changing your perspective. So suddenly you can look at it in a more nuanced way. Rather than reacting, you're able to breathe a few minutes, take a few thoughts, and then kind of go, right, what now, sort of thing. So with that, honestly, the best thing that I can suggest is a stoical approach. How much of this problem is inside my control? And how much of it is totally outside? So are there elements of it that I am worrying about that actually it doesn't matter whether I worry about them or not, because I'm utterly powerless to affect the outcome? If that's the case, let that bit go. But there will probably be elements that are within your control. They might be uncomfortable, but they are within your control. So you've come a long way by noticing those bits, right? So you now know, okay, these bits that I'm scared about, there's no point in me being scared about them. No point in me being stressed about it because I can't do anything about it. These bits, I do have some agency over. So then the next question is, how do I take steps to diminish the fear on that? And the problem is most people think that if they prepare really, really well, then they'll kind of work on the fear in advance so that it'll go away. And then once they feel comfortable with it, they'll take the steps. In practice, it works exactly the opposite way. So as soon as you have taken a step, no matter how small, you then observe the results and you kind of go, that wasn't as bad as I thought. Then you've made progress. Then you've made feedback. Then you know where you're heading. So the thing to do with fear is not to try and over-prepare. You can prepare to a certain extent, but eventually the only way to make progress is by doing. If you don't do, then tomorrow the stress is going to be the same as today. If you do, no matter how uncomfortable, you will learn something new. Even if you make a mistake, you've still made progress because then you know what not to do again. If you do nothing, if you're in a state of paralysis, well, unfortunately, you're still going to be in the same state tomorrow. So take a step. It's basically feel the fear, acknowledge the fear, but then acknowledge that at any point you have junctions, you have routes, you have choices, and the worst is to not take the choice. The worst is to do nothing, because then you're no further forward tomorrow than you are today. Take the wrong choice, well then you know not to do that again, so then what you do is you make the choice so small that the end result won't be too bad. Take the right choice, you notice it's working well, and then you can compound and continue down that route. I hope that makes sense. Techniques, little techniques that can diminish the immediate stress. Contemplation, meditation, breathing exercises to bring you back into a state of parasympathetic normalcy, but then grapple with the underlying demand, the underlying fear, the underlying catastrophe. Ask yourself, is this catastrophe even realistic, or am I just being an idiot, right? It's perfectly possible that you can be overemphasizing, over-egging the catastrophe. But even if it's true, even if it's fair, if it's real, you have to find a way to confront it. And so the way to do that is to chunk it down so small that it is possible to take a little step forward, learn what you learn, and then take other little steps forward. That's how you make progress. That's how you learn. I hope some of that is of interest. It's a big subject, stress. It comes up all the time. But if you can start from the basis of, well, hey, it's part of life. Maybe this is good stress. Yeah, maybe this is stress that I can use as a challenge, as an opportunity, as a way for learning what I'm capable of. Any of that can work. If you can shift your negative chatter into something of an opportunity so that you get to go through a learning experience rather than resisting and suffering something that you don't want to do, well then boy, oh boy, oh boy, will the end result be different, and your journey through it will be so much different as well. I hope that's of interest, and let me know in the comments below if you have something in particular that's worked for you. That I would love to hear. All right, thank you very much. Take care. Cheers. Bye.
Thank you for listening. If it supported you in some way or helped you to question your inner experience, then follow the show. Personally, I would be really grateful if you might also leave a quick rating. It makes a huge difference in terms of discoverability so that other people who might benefit can find the podcast. If you prefer a visual element, check out Authentic Life Hypnosis on YouTube. And if you're looking for deeper work beyond one-way audio yourself, you're very welcome to reach out. Equally, if you have any questions, I'm here to help. Until next time.